Lance Stroll. The name itself is opinionating for many F1 fans across the world. You are either a fan of the Canadian, rating him as a great driver, or you are of the opinion that he is nothing more than a paid driver who is in Formula One only because of his daddy's money. So, which side is right? Is he as good as some say he is, or is he just another paid driver who is in F1 only because of his family's immense wealth? Early life. Lance Stroll, born Lance Strollovich, is a Formula One driver currently contracted to and racing for Aston Martin Aramco Mercedes F1 team. He is originally of Russian Jewish descent and is the son of Canadian billionaire Lance Stroll. His father made his money by being an early investor in Tommy Hilfiger and Ralph Lauren, bringing the two US-based brands to Europe and Asia and being mainly responsible for their global prominence today. Lawrence is a big fan of automobiles, owning a large collection of cars, including a LaFerrari, and, until August 2022, the Circuit Mont-Tremblant in Canada. Go-karts. It was on this exact track where Lawrence took his first steps in racing, when his father bought him a go-kart at age 7, and by age 10, he was already competing in karting championships across North America. In 2008, after recording many wins in the karting series, he became the Quebec Automobile Federation Rookie of the Year, and just a year afterwards, aged 11, he became the Driver of the Year. But his career would take a big turn just a year later. Ferrari Knocking. In 2010, Lance's life would change forever as he became a member of the fabled Ferrari Driver Academy. This institution is supported directly by the Scuderia Ferrari F1 team and is responsible for molding drivers such as Mick Schumacher, Charles Leclerc, and Jules Bianchi. They don't take on just anyone, and the fact that they took on Lance was a big sign that the boy had speed under his legs. In 2014, he had his car racing debut in a series organized by the Ferrari Driver Academy, in a race where future F1 driver Nicholas Latifi and future F1 driver Max Verstappen were also competing. By the way, leave a comment below if you would like us to make a biography like this one about any of these drivers. In this very competitive environment, racing against some of the best drivers in the world, Lance finished on the podium twice and gained a new pole position, yet more evidence that he is a very talented racing driver. Formula 4 champion. Ferrari wasted no time in getting Lance into a real competitive racing series and enrolled them in the famous Prima Power team in that same year. He would be racing in the Italian Formula 4 championship. Lance and his team Prima dominated the championship, Lance himself winning 3 of the first 6 races in the series and taking 4 pole positions. 2 of the wins came in the fabled and historic Imola circuit, a track that is notorious for taking the lives of famous figures such as Ayrton Senna and is very difficult to drive. Lance went on to win another 4 races and taking a staggering 13 podium finishes. Even though he missed the last 3 races of the series, he won the championship with a difference of 94 points, and thus also winning Prima the championship. The Williams connection. In 2015, Stroll and the Ferrari Driver Academy parted ways, as his dominating performance in F4 became enough for him to gain a place in the Williams Formula One team as a reserve driver. By then, his father had bought a stake in the Prima racing team, and he was promoted to the European F3 Championship, where he would compete against some of the best drivers in the world, such as George Russell, Alex Albon, and Charles Leclerc. He would record a race win at the Hockenheim Ring in Germany and 6 more podium finishes. He competed in Formula 3 again in 2016 and completely dominated the series. He recorded a staggering 14 race wins, winning the last 5 races consecutively. He would go on to win the year's championship by a difference of 187 points. Williams' paid driver? By the end of the 2016 season and the award ceremony, the world of Formula One was shook to its core. Nico Rosberg, the man who had just won the World Championship against bitter rival Lewis Hamilton in the last race of the season, announced he was retiring. In a bid to get a second driver to partner Lewis, Toto Wolff decided to hire Valtteri Bottas from Williams, thus vacating that seat. This was Lance's turn to shine, and he wasted no time taking this opportunity, being announced alongside Felipe Massa for 2017. He was heavily criticized for entering Formula One for his lack of experience and the fact that his father had basically paid Williams to promote his son into Formula One. But this isn't something new to the pinnacle of motorsports. Many young drivers bring sponsors to their teams when they enter the sport, for example, Jumbo and Max Verstappen, or Vodafone and Michael Schumacher. It is expected for a driver to bring money into a team when he starts racing for them, and Lance was no different. The people criticizing him for his father's involvement in his career forgot that drivers like Lando Norris and Checo Perez are also paid drivers, being financed by the likes of Husky and Telemax, respectively. F1 is very expensive, and bringing in a driver who is able to help the team out financially is a part of the sport. After all, the genesis of the sport came from rich nobles racing their cars around France. And even though he was heavily criticized in the beginning, having retired from his first 3 Grand Prix due to crashes and car failures, on the 7th race of the season, he proved his doubters wrong after that chaotic Azerbaijan Grand Prix, where Daniel Ricciardo would end up finishing a comfortable first after Lewis and Seb crashed into each other. Lance would end up drag racing with Valtteri for P2, the Finn edging the Canadian out by just a few hundredths of a second in one of the most nail-biting finishes to an F1 race. He would finish the season just 3 points behind bona fide Formula One legend Felipe Massa. Force India or Racing Point? In 2017, another shock rocked the paddock as it was announced during that year's Hungarian Grand Prix that the Force India team was going into administration, put there by Checo Perez for the benefit of the team. Vijay Malla, who fell into legal trouble in his homeland of India, was no longer able to finance the team properly, and the workers hadn't gotten their wages in months. During that year's summer break, savvy businessman and Lance's father, Lawrence Stroll, bought the assets of the Force India team and renamed it to Racing Point. This was done due to legal trouble with the creditors not being able to buy the shares of the team. Unsurprisingly, the team made way for Lawrence's son Lance by letting go of Esteban Ocon and putting him in the car instead. A mountain of criticism was rallied at Lance and his father for firing the best driver in Esteban Ocon and hiring his son. Most of the criticism was laid at the feet of Lance Stroll, accusations coming that he was a pay driver. It took Esteban Ocon making an Instagram post saying that they will all work hard to be here to quell the tensions and stop the criticism against Lance. A similar reaction was had in the 2020 season when Lance was kept instead of Checo in what was to become the Aston Martin F1 team, in spite finishing 50 points behind him in the championship, and Checo winning a race for the team in that year's Sakir Grand Prix. Pay driver or not? At this point, you might ask whether Lance is a pay driver or not. And the answer is yes, of course he is. All Formula One drivers are, in a sense, pay drivers because they bring sponsors and money to their teams. Especially the teams lower down the pecking order like Aston Martin or Williams that don't have the likes of Daimler and Ferrari backing them with endless amounts of money, need drivers that bring sponsors. And Lance is one of those drivers. His sponsor just happens to be his father. Any good father would help his son in any way he can. Your father may have paid for your driver's license or bought you your first car. Lance's dad just went one step further and bought him a Formula One team. It has also been proven time and time again that Lance is a rapid driver, having scored 3 podiums to date. So, what do you think? Is Lance a pay driver who should be kicked out of Aston Martin immediately and make way for someone younger and faster? Or is he a rapid driver who deserves the seat as much as anyone else in the paddock? Let us know in the comments below.